Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Game Develop Repeat. I am your host, Chris, and in today's episode, we are talking about Incredible Crisis. It is a wacky and wild PlayStation 1 game, and it is a good time. There's a lot to be said about it, but what I want to mostly focus on here is the idea of panic. I think it is a central theme in the game. I think the game tries to make you panic. And I think it's an interesting thing to talk about as a creative person. I think for any of us, for anybody here who likes making things, the feeling of panic pops up. The feeling of panic appears, and it has some interesting impacts on your ability to create things. So I want to talk through that, and I want to figure out, are there times when it kind of helps creativity? I want to just like present that idea, play devil's advocate for a minute, right? So we'll try to do that as well. All right, talk about panic not only as the thing that freaks us out, but how it might help us on occasion too, so that we're not constantly villainizing it. But I've been talking for too long in this introduction. Let's start talking about a cool game. What makes Incredible Crisis so special? What makes this game stand out to me to this day? There's a lot of elements to this. The main thing that sticks out to me is the story combined with the gameplay. And there's no risk of me spoiling this story because I couldn't if I tried. I do not remember what happens in this game. I just have like a vague fever dream memory of a bunch of different scenes and like themes and stuff. But the story is so over the top, and it takes a day-to-day experience and it rolls it into this crazy path. It goes like, yeah, but what if this happens? What if every anxiety that you've ever had comes true and then gets cranked to 11, right? It's like you get in an elevator, you're going to die. You walk down a street, you're going to die. You go shopping, you're going to die. Everything you do is not only are you going to die, but you're going to disappoint your family in the process. It is wild how much this story just turns everything into a problem, turns everything into and you're not going to believe this, an incredible crisis. All right, I apologize for that. Uh, the music, let's just pivot for a second so I can get away from that bad title drop. The music is phenomenal. There's this nice ska soundtrack. The title screen of the game has the most chilled out, funky groove. It's tasty, it's cozy, and it's a nice way to lean into the game because the game's kind of reminding you, like, hey, man, you got to relax if you're going to manage all this stuff. You got to be chill because otherwise you're going to lose. You're going to get too tense and you're not going to be able to play the game. It's relaxed. There's a little dog on the screen just bobbing its little head going, oh, which one of these foods do I want to eat from? And those are your menu options. So your control of the menu is moving the dog between like continue game, load game, new, options, all that stuff. That's great. That's so charming. I love a charming title menu, and by God, that's a charming title menu. You got me with a dog choosing which bowl of food to eat right from the start. I'm invested. I'm committed. This game is my game now. It's also so difficult. This game is so hard. I played it as a kid. I think I probably played it when I was like less than 10 years old. I'm thinking. Okay, it came out in like 2000 in the United States. I probably got it within 3 or 4 years of then because it would have been picked up in a store. I'm pretty sure that I played this game when I was younger than 10 for the first time, at least. It is a Okay, let's go into gameplay a little bit here. It is a stressful game, not just in story, not just in themes, but in gameplay. It masters this art of taking something simple and making it stressful. You feel anxious when your character is anxious. You feel timid when your character is timid. You feel like you are walking along a tightrope when your character feels like they're walking along a tightrope. And it's brilliant. It's so interesting that they're able to do this. You guys, you probably know I have a bit of an obsession with like taking player inputs and making them really meaningful. I've talked about this before. I don't know how much it's come across so far, but when you're able to change the way that the player is pressing X and make it affect the player and make them feel like they are in the scene, that's crazy. That is the weirdest, most magical psychological trick that we can pull, and this game does it. You're bashing X to save your own life. You are making sure to press the button at the right time to prevent yourself from massive embarrassment in your office for like a dancing mini game. You're kind of guessing where something is and pressing the right button at the right time without like full information in order to I don't know how to explain that one. The point is you're navigating these situations with a little bit of the emotion that the character would have in that situation. The character's panicked, you've got frantic gameplay. The character is kind of confused, you've got just the slightest bit of confusing gameplay. Your character is trying to be coordinated, you've got to be coordinated, right? You've got to do things at the right time. It's pretty nice. It's pretty good. And it's a little bit brutal because the difficulty is always cranked in or cranked up and tuned in just right to make you go, Jesus, can I just clear this minigame? I just want to clear this minigame. This is so frustrating, but I got to help this guy because he's going to die. He's having a rough day. That's the other one. The stakes of this game are so confusing. It goes from like, oh, I'm just helping out this family to like saving the world to helping the family. Like the stakes are all over the place. You're like, what am I doing in this game? Am I saving the whole world or am I just helping this guy get through his day? Right? What is this? Why is everything so intense? It's so high pressure and so simple. And that is like 99% of its charm. And maybe this is because I love seeing this fictional version of intense anxiety and like putting it in like the office space scenario. There's something about that that's like, yeah, man, you're just too worried about some stuff that you don't even need to worry about. And then at the same time, it's saying, but if you don't do it right, you're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die. You have to do this right. You have to do it perfectly. Do it right. Right? There's something so fun about that from a creative, like, narrative perspective of, like, it's like the person who made the game or made the theming or designed the mini games or whatever. It's like they knew on a very deep level that the stuff that they were doing was not worth the stress that they were having over it, and at the same time just openly acknowledging like, yeah, but I'm stressed anyway, man, and the stress is real even though the thing I'm doing isn't that stressful and there's nothing I can do about it. It has that feeling behind it. It feels like whoever made it was like really really connected with this sense of being overly stressed out about something mundane and still not being able to let go of that stress. What can Incredible Crisis teach us about game development? What are the ideas we can explore here? What are the concepts? What are the themes? The thing that sticks out to me about this game is panic. Panic and also frustration. And I think these are things that you can run into when working in a creative field. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. And then we'll talk about the game feel stuff a little bit more. But mostly I want to talk about this idea of I'm panicking and I have to get something done, right? I'm freaking out and I have to do this thing. Everything is falling apart and this has to be done. Because that's an interesting feeling. There's something there that is fascinating from like a creative side of things. I am not a big believer in creating stuff. Well, how do I phrase this? Brainstorming. I'm not a big believer in coming up with ideas while in a state of panic. I think that if you are in this state where you're like, this has to get done, I don't have time, I'm going to lose it, everything is going to fall apart. I think if you're in that state, you're not in an open space for brainstorming. I think you're in a space where your number one priority, if you're trying to brainstorm and you're in that place, I think your number one priority is to take a breath and step away from the panic, and then you'll be able to brainstorm, and then you can handle the panic, and it's fine, right? Like, if you're doing the creation part of creativity in terms of, how do I put that? That's not accurate. The creation itself is sometimes just putting your nose against the grindstone and doing the work, right? But the brainstorming side of things, the creative side of things, there's a hard distinction to draw here, and it's hard to put it into words. The part where you are coming up with ideas, where you're creating interesting concepts just mentally. You're not doing the physical work, but you're just creating some kind of interesting concept. I think that side of creative work gets annihilated by panic. I think it's generally bad. But what is the utility of panic? How can panic be useful? That's the question I really want answers to, and I'm not sure that I'm going to provide them, but I want to kind of explore this for a second. I think it can be a motivator, right? I think you can have something where you're like, I have to get this done, and it can motivate you to move forward. So if you've already got the plan laid out, if you've already got everything figured out in terms of I'm going to do this, this is the design, this is the plan, all that stuff, and you're panicking, maybe it just gets you locked in and working on it, but only maybe. I'm still not convinced by that, honestly. Like, I think it's more something that we have to accept and know how to work around and take as an emotional cue to say, oh, I am in a time crunch. Okay, I understand. Thank you. Acknowledged. Gonna take a deep breath real quick. The panic is still there. Let's just settle it down a little bit and then get focused. I think it's a trigger for focus, ideally. I think if you're constantly feeling it, then it's going to keep you from getting anything done, from focusing, from being very productive, and from creating anything that you enjoy either playing or creating. There's another element of this game, which is the frustration, the utility of frustration. I think there's a feeling when you get frustrated where you go, oh, I'm sticking with this. I'm going to get this done and nothing will stop me. And I think that is extremely useful. I think getting stressed out to the point where you go, nothing will get in my way. I am going to finish this. I am going to learn how to do this. This is going to happen one way or another. I think when you reach that level of frustration, that has a utility. But then there's a catch. There's always a catch. We've all played a game where you get into that mode and then you won't let go of it. And if you would just go to sleep and then try it again tomorrow, it would be the easiest thing in the world. But we just keep trying and trying and trying and trying, right? I think that's the catch with the frustration, is knowing when that stopping point is, and then when you stop, coming back. Don't go through all the frustration and then finally go, oh, you know what, I'm done, I'll never get it. No. Go through all the frustration, reach the point where you want to say, I'm done, I'll never get it, and then say, I am done for today. I will try again tomorrow and see how much I've learned, right? It's a hard thing to do. But I think that is the utility of frustration. And sometimes you can be like, I'm done, I'm never doing this again. And then you come back tomorrow anyway, because you're like, I just have to get it done. I just can't stand this. I will not let, what is the name of that boss in Elden Ring? Margot? Is that first huge boss? I was like, I will not let that boss defeat me. And then you beat it. right? Because you slept on it. In my case, maybe you slept on it a few different days. Like maybe you played, lost, slept, played, lost, slept, played, lost, slept. Oh, finally got it, right? God, I gotta get back to that game. That is a hard game, though. Okay, here's the other stuff. This is the more game development specific stuff, design specific stuff. How do your players physically interact with your game? Just thinking about this, just noticing this subtlety of it. Like, is your player bashing X? How are they going to be doing that? Is it going to add a little tension to their body? Are they focused really intently on the screen? Are they thinking a lot? Are they in this place of confusion where like there's kind of like a mystery they're figuring out? How are they interacting? How is that affecting them physically and emotionally? Is it going to cause tension? And if it does, is the next part of the game going to cause a release of that tension? Or are you going to build it up even further? How far are you going to push your player? Do your difficulty settings work with your intended audience? That's another element of this. Like, do you have options for different players for those levels of like physical and emotional impact? Like, do you have ways to make sure that players are able to play this game and get the intended experience? Is it going to work even if the player finds it simple? Will it still have some kind of a physical impact on your player where like, yeah, it's simple, I can do it, but it's still a little bit intense, right? That is maybe the single greatest lesson from this game for me. It's like, it's so powerful to just pay attention to the simplest of designs and the way that they're impacting your player. It's beautiful. It is a magical thing that they have done. And I think so many games do this, and I think it is the thing that takes a game from pretty good to the one of the greatest things I've ever played, right? I think it's one of those elements in game design that can take you over the top and make a game so powerful. Connected to that is the impact of emotional story moments on gameplay. If you have a moment in the game that creates a big emotional impact, if you have a moment in the game that makes the player go, oh my God, think about what's going on with them right then, and then decide what you want to do to them next, right? Is the player going to take a break after that big moment? Is the player feeling hurt? Is the player feeling upset? Is the player feeling angry? What do you let them do right after that? If you've just made your player really mad, if you've just had some character be a total jerk, right? You've got some character who just kicked a dog, right? I was like, what is the worst thing a person can do? That's where we're going. You have a character who just kicked a dog, and you just saw this. What happens next in terms of gameplay? Is this a game where you give your player an option? Do you have the option to defend the dog, or is your character helpless? And how do you depict that, right? How do you make the player feel even more stuff based on their response or their ability to respond to what is going on in the story? Are they powerless? Are they powerful? Are they struggling against their powerlessness? Or are they forced to accept it? Are you going to force your player to go, well, there's just nothing I can do about it. That guy he just gets away with kicking that dog. Or are you going to let your player rampage, right? Very different games, very different emotional feeling of playing the game, right? Very different reaction from the player based on what options you give them. And then imagine that you have a sad moment in a game, right? You have somebody has just died, right? Some character that you love is gone. And then immediately, and I mean immediately, the game goes, okay, and now all of this stuff is going on and you have to manage it right now, right? It goes, okay, horrible thing just happened. You need a moment to breathe. You need time. You need space. You need a moment to process, but you don't get it. Because if you don't go do this, everybody else is going to die too, right? These are the things that we can do through gameplay as storytellers that are just crazy. We can do so much crazy stuff to the players. We can put them through some wild experiences. And I think it's just these little levers, right? Oh my God, I want to play with these levers so much. It feels a little bit evil. There's just this little part of me that's like, I just really want to make somebody so sad and then put them in the most frustrating situation immediately. And then eventually it pays off like later. But I just really, it feels evil. But it's great story design tied into gameplay, and it's exciting, and it's wild, and it's thrilling, and it is the kind of thing that I want to create where somebody is just having to struggle with this game a little bit, or is getting huge payoffs from this game and huge moments of like satisfaction and relief by imagine throughout the whole game your character is powerless, or the whole intro maybe. And then you finally get to this point where you're able to respond, right? So in the example of the guy who sees a dog get kicked, the player maybe even tries to stand up for themselves, and they can't do anything. And then they learn that they can't do anything, and they just don't even bother anymore. And then they develop the power to do something about it. And the first time that you are actually able to do something to defend that dog is going to be so satisfying. And you're not just reading about it. You're not just watching about it. You are trying actively throughout the game to do something to help that freaking dog. Because we got to help the dog. We can't. It's one of those things. You set up a story element where like you have to do something about this. Like you're not going to just let this slide, right? I love it. But I'm going on a tangent now. I think I need to. Oh, I've got to talk about my own game development. I always forget about talking about my own game development. Luckily, we don't have a ton to talk about today. Or unluckily for me, I have not been getting enough done for the last 2 weeks. I need to get I've heard the phrase Keystone Habits. I need to get my habits in order. I need to lock in a routine. I've gotten way too casual. I'm like, oh, well, I can work whenever. And then I just don't get any work done. So I got to lock in a routine to some extent. There has to be an exact time that I'm like, I need a time when I'm developing, time when I'm working out, and another time when I'm developing. And it needs to be locked in and routine. That's where I'm at. It's been a little hard to let myself. It's frustrating not getting stuff done for me. I have kind of an on and off switch, and I think when I decided to take a little bit of take a breather, it flipped the switch, right? I was like, I'm gonna take a day, and then it just turned everything off. Like I took a day for myself, and instead of figuring out, okay, this is how I relax and then I get back into it, it was just like full system shutdown. Now you're going to have to take some time to get things turned back on and get things going again, and so on and so on. So that's what I got to do now. I got to get it going again. So that's what we're doing. We're getting it going again. We're locking in those habits. And the biggest thing that I'm going to try is a different routine for sleep and for work. I need to lock in my sleep. It's really important. I'm not good about it. It is a mess. I've always struggled with my sleep schedule, so that's what we're working on there. And then the work schedule, I think I'm going to do 4 hours of work, go to the gym, 4 more hours of work. I suspect that will be better than doing 8 hours of work and then either gym or gym, then 8 hours of work. So I'm going to try it. We're going to test it out. We're going to see how it goes. For this week, though, honestly, the priority is just locking in that sleep. When my sleep is killing it, when I'm sleeping at the right times, when I'm sleeping for the right amount of time, all that good stuff, I am on top of the world. I feel good. I feel powerful. I feel creative. But you know how often that happens? That happens like for 2 weeks once every 5 years. I've got to lock that in. Drives me crazy. Let's talk community development. I want to connect to this community more. And for those of you who are on the Discord, first off, what a great week for the Discord. The Discord is popping off. People are joining, people are talking, people are supporting each other. I'm excited about it. For those of you who are in there, thank you for joining. Thank you for starting these conversations and for getting going on like building a supportive creative community. For those of you who are not part of it, feel free to jump in, feel free to engage with everybody else. Take the risk of speaking about your game development with other people, in whatever terms help you, right? Go in there and be like, hey, I'm working on this project. I'm working in this engine. I've been working on this skill, what have you. I'm going to start asking questions either like weekly or monthly. There's no locked in schedule, but I'm going to ask questions in one of the channels in there to be like prompting people to talk about their projects and interact and all that stuff. Anyway, there's a Discord invite in the notes for the show. You can join there. It's growing. We're getting there. Get in on the ground level. There's another element to this community development thing, which is that I pulled the Discord and said, hey, what do you guys want more? Do you want a community game night where we all play like a multiplayer game together, right? Like a weekly game night? Or would you rather have like a weekly Twitch stream, like a short Twitch stream of just me playing whatever I'm playing? I thought everybody was going to want the game night. Everybody wanted the Twitch stream. So I'm looking at that. My plan is to do it. I intend to start a weekly Twitch stream. I have to figure out all the details of that. I've already got a first game in mind, and I'm extremely excited about it. If I can get that game to work, I'm going to have such a fun time showing it to everybody. But first, I got to figure out this whole Twitch thing. So I have to look into like getting a camera, maybe a green screen, all this stuff, right? So I'll look into that. I'll figure it out. Heads up, Twitch stream might be coming. Final thoughts about development in general. I have this thought a lot of the time, which is you are what you do, right? I think it's kind of like if you're sitting around, how do I put this? If you're doing nothing, it's going to feel a certain way. If you're creating things consistently, it's going to feel a certain way. And whatever feeling that instills in you is going to roll into more and more things, and it's going to become a whole big thing. If you're chilling and consuming all the time, that creates a certain internal state. If you're chilling, creating all the time, it creates a certain internal state. If you're going on hikes, that's one internal state. If you're going to the gym, that's another one. What games you were playing, what shows you were watching, all the things that you were doing are going to affect who you are, what you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're interested in, and all this stuff. And I've just been thinking about that. I don't have a ton to say on it other than like sometimes I do something where I'm like, I guess I shouldn't have eaten those Doritos because now I kind of feel not great. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm glad I ate those Doritos because this was the right time to eat Doritos. I'm not sure exactly what I'm getting at here, but it ties into development, doesn't it? Right? Like if I'm watching a bunch of media that inspires me, it helps me. If I'm watching a bunch of stuff that makes me unhappy, it could help me depending on the project that I'm making. If I'm not making anything and I'm not exercising and I'm not waking up on time, hint, hint with the waking up on time, I really got to get that together. If I'm not like, then I end up feeling like, whatever. I'm just this. I just don't do things. I'm just blobbing out. I'm just chilling. But if I'm waking up consistently at the right time, then that inspires me to use the day. And if I'm inspired to use the day, then that inspires me to do this. And it like rolls. It rolls. It gets into this whole snowball effect. And then I have a final thought. Speaking of media, I've been watching a show. I just binged it, actually. I just binged a season of it. I watched a show called The Bear on Hulu. And that show is such a good show about like passion and mistakes around passion, mistakes around like sacrificing everything for something and like trying to fix trauma in your life by pursuing a creative passion. It's about a chef, and it's such a cool and interesting show, and I have a lot of thoughts about this thing that people run into where you're so passionate about something that you're willing to sacrifice anything, and how that actually impacts us, and how it's like an easy trap to fall into that actually destroys the passion. And I think that The Bear is an interesting inspection of some of those ideas, and I'm like projecting my own experiences onto it and interpreting in that in my own way, like we do with all art that we consume. But it's really interesting to me. And I guess my summary thought here is, if you're passionate about something and you sacrifice everything for that passion, you might kill the passion. You might get mad at it for what you think it did to you. You might be like, why did game development do this to me? It didn't. You did this. You put so much pressure on it. You put everything into it in a way that kills the passion, but the passion is still there and you can't let go of it. And then every time you're like, oh, I'm going to work on this thing, then you start having this like very negative internal experience because of all the stuff you've sacrificed. Does that make sense? Some of you are going to be able to relate to this in some element of your life, and some may not, right? For me, I see this in music. There's a lot of stuff in music where I'm deeply resentful of parts of like musical stuff, like working on music, where I'm like, I can't stand this because I had a bad mindset every time I went to work on music. I had a very like all or nothing, sacrifice everything, weird mindset, like very weird. And so I've learned that lesson, and I get to take it away to game development. And I guess the only reason I mention this is because I don't want people's passions to go sour. I don't want people to do this thing where they sacrifice everything in the name of becoming perfect at something or whatever. Because it's an illusion, and it'll make your life worse. I think I'd stand on pretty stable ground saying attempting to sacrifice everything in the pursuit of perfection or greatness is like, even if you become great at it, you might start to hate it. So don't pursue things in a way that makes you hate them. Pursue things in a way that expands your love for them. I hope that makes sense. Let's wrap this thing up. I've come up with 3 questions for this week. The first question is, what environments and habits help you? For me, that is the gym, that is nature, and that is sleeping. Ooh, the library is very peaceful too. I guess that's helpful, and I underutilize that. But going to the gym, going in nature is huge. It's like a nice cleanse. It's like a nice easy moment. And then the habit that helps me the most is definitely having a routine, having a stable routine. When I execute on it, but it's not consistent. So I don't know if it's actually that good. I'm just going to try it again and see where we land. Because if you can't do it consistently, is it really that helpful? Maybe you should explore other options. I don't know. Let's not go down this rabbit hole. Let's go to the second question instead. What environments and habits hurt you or harm you? I think for me, these are things like eating really gnarly food, right? Like some food just leaves me with no energy, right? Sleeping really late into the day. Like waking up, if I wake up early, I get stuff done. If I wake up late, I don't get stuff done. I don't know. It's just a thing, right? Like, it's not universally true, but for me, that's kind of how it happens. What else? All day gaming binges. That hurts me. That's not great, right? Usually. Sometimes there's a day where it's like, okay, let's go hard. Let's play some games. I'm really excited about this game and I'm genuinely loving it. That's different than just like, oh, I guess I'm playing games today, right? All right, last question. What one change would have the greatest positive impact on your life? And this can either be a habit change or a one-time action. So it could either be, oh, I'm blocking Reddit on my computer, or it could be, I am, well, I can't use Reddit as another example. What would it be? It would be like, I am going to be in bed by this time every night. Would be like a consistent habit thing. Or the one-time action is the blocking Reddit thing, right? I think one-time actions are really great. I think habit changes are really great too, but a little bit more difficult. Sometimes it's easier to just take one huge swing than to like set up a whole consistent habit thing, right? So those are the 3 questions. And then the tip for this week is it's about panic. If you're a panic person, if you're having that moment where you're getting that cue where it's like, I have to get this done. I'm freaking out, but I can't get creative right now because I'm panicking and I need to be creative, but this thing is due and whatever, right? You have a commission due tomorrow and you have to create some new idea for it, but you can't because you're panicking. Learn a couple of basic breathing exercises. It is so easy to underestimate the power of a slow, deep breath and a slow exhale. It's powerful. It's really, really impactful. You can do some nice slow breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth for counts of 4, right? You can just like count your breath, 4 beats in, 4 beats out, nice and slow. Gradually slow it down, and it can change everything. So that's the tip. If you're a panicky fella, if you're a panicky person, check out a couple little breathing exercises, and I'll leave that to you to look into and figure out what's good for you. I'm particularly passionate about breathing exercises because it is my favorite part of all of my musical training. Breathing exercises were a big thing for me in music because I'm a low brass player, and I found them calming. And then I dug into that a bit, and there's reasons why they're calming, and it's great. Give it a shot, and if you're doing them, try doing them through your nose. There's a whole book about this whole thing, but just try doing breathing exercises through your nose, and at least for the inhale, preferably all the way around if you can. The end. That's the episode. That's everything for today. If you want to get into the community and you want to have your voice heard, you want to kind of join in and have these like check-ins and all that stuff, join the Discord. There's a link in there. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, what am I doing? I got to say the thing. It's become a habit. Get out there, make some stuff, and have fun with it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.